When I was working at this treatment center where I began to get frustrated because people they would be there and they would spend money and they would do quite well, and then they would leave and then they would relapse. And I didn't get that, and because that wasn't my experience as well. And I've certainly watched it happen through the years. And what I finally started discovering is that there's a difference between being sober and actually living in recovery. And when I first got clean, I decided, it's like, well, what is my prize? I needed something to be willing to continue to do this for. And so I decided that recovery for me meant getting back what I had loved and lost. And so that was going to be my goal. And that not drinking or not doing drugs was simply a part of that, and it was important. And so it's certainly a critical ingredient. However, it's not enough to really sustain life and to make people happy. And I can remember, when I wasn't working and I had my second injury, how much of a challenge it was for me to connect really to either community, be it the brain injury community or the addiction recovery community. I would go to meetings and I would be in fellowship with other friends in kind of the primary addiction recovery community, and I was watching them get back things that they loved and lost, but I had no job, I had no ability to drive, so I started thinking, okay, this isn't so great. And then I would go to my brain injury community friends, and they would tell me that it was okay to just have your brain injury, and they would help me make excuses for not trying to really recover. And so it became a big challenge, and it allowed me to use it as kind of a crutch or as an excuse. And so it was several years ago when I was able to say I needed to be really in recovery for both of these things. And I was at a meeting one day, a brain injury community meeting of some sort, and this gentleman, he introduced himself as a person in recovery from brain injury. And I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. And then he talked about how it was just kind of like an episode, that this was an experience that he had in his life, and then it no longer had to shape and be who he was. And I was like, I wanted that. I said, I want to be like that. I want this to be an event that happened, and certainly I have challenges as a result of that, but I can put it in a different perspective. And so when I think of my addiction, and I think that kind of the beginning is that spiritual sobriety is getting sober. And when I think of being in brain injury recovery, that the event in my survival of the two experiences, and then the rest of my life is really about living in recovery.